And the breaking news this hour, the pick is in. Vice President Kamala Harris has chosen Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. And we are told he has accepted that. We do know that last night, Kamala Harris became the party's official nominee as virtual delegate roll call wrapped up. We also know that maybe there might have been some discussion on that call. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. So Tim Walz of Minnesota is expected to make his first appearance with Kamala Harris tonight at a rally in Philadelphia. That's where the other leading candidate, Josh Shapiro, is the governor. Many people thought it might be him. We'll get into it later. Governor Walz of Minnesota was elected in 2018 and led the state during the violent and destructive 2020 rioting sparked by George Floyd's killing. And Republicans are reacting to Kamala Harris's choice. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida called Harris-Walz the most left-wing ticket in American history. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik called Walz a failed government who supported BLM that torched cities to the ground. Senator Tom Cotton also hit Walz for letting rioters, arsonists, and looters rampage through Minnesota. Vivek Ramaswamy says Walz is a massive gift to Republicans. Well, perhaps not surprisingly, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi likes him.
To characterize him as left is so unreal. It's just not what the question. He's right down the middle. He's a heartland of America Democrat. He brings the rural credential, and he will do well in rural America. It's mystifying to me to see someone that I worked with, shall we say, right down the middle, characterized on the left in this regard. That was the decision that the president, not our presidential nominee, soon to be president of the United States, has made. I respect the decision.
Right down the middle, but he wants to get away, just do away with fossil fuel as early as 2040. National correspondent Brian Yenis is in Philadelphia, and that is where Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will rally together in a few hours. And former President Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, will speak in about an hour. So there's a lot going on this day, Brian.
Yeah, a lot going on indeed. And you know what? No one's more surprised than the folks here in Pennsylvania who thought that their governor, Josh Shapiro, was indeed the front runner to be Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate. Instead, he is scheduled to join the stage tonight here in Philadelphia to support a rally that is instead for Harris and her pick, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Harris taking to X, posting this, quote, "I am proud to announce that I've asked Tim Walz to be my running mate. As a governor, a coach, a teacher, and a veteran, he's delivered for working families like his. It's great to have him on the team. Now let's get to work. Join us." Walz also posting on X, quote, "It is the honor of a lifetime to join Harris in this campaign. I'm all in." Vice President Harris is showing us the politics of what's possible. It reminds me a bit of the first day of school. So let's get this done, folks. Join us. Walz was endorsed by the progressives in the Democratic Party like Senator Bernie Sanders and the United Auto Workers Union. He's recently famous for coining the attack line, calling former President Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance weird. And he's seen as a plain-speaking Midwesterner who could potentially help win over some blue-collar voters in critical battleground states like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. He served 6 terms in Congress, and notably, he was governor of Minnesota during the George Floyd riots, in which he himself characterized the response to the destructive riots as, quote, an abject failure. Expect Republicans to exploit more progressive laws that were signed by Walz as governor of Minnesota, like, for instance, his first executive order established a DEI council. He signed an executive order guaranteeing gender-affirming care for transgender youth, a bill guaranteeing abortion rights, free college tuition, as well as signing a free universal school meals bill. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says Walz is right down the middle, but the Trump campaign, well, they're on the attack.
Is Kamala Harris's first big decision as the Democrat Party's nominee. And with this decision, choosing Tim Walz, she has proven just how dangerously liberal she is. Tim Walz is one of the most far-left governors in America. We'll spend the next 92 days ensuring every American knows how radical the Harris-Walz ticket is.
Harris's decision not to choose Governor Shapiro, who is Jewish, is now being characterized by some as proof of growing anti-Semitism on the left. Progressives over the last 2 weeks have attacked Shapiro as being too pro-Israel, despite the fact that his stance on Israel mirrors that of Walz and other moderate Democrats. This morning, before we knew who Harris picked, Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance said this about the message Democrats would send if they bypassed Shapiro.
I think that they will have not picked Shapiro, frankly, out of anti-Semitism in their own caucus and in their own party. I think it's disgraceful. The guy has in some ways had to run away from a lot of his biography over the last few months because the far left doesn't like the fact that he is a Jewish American.
And in a new statement, Governor Shapiro saying this: Vice President Kamala Harris has my enthusiastic support, and I know that Governor Tim Walz is an exceptionally strong addition to the ticket who will help Kamala move our country forward. Harris, two sources confirmed to Fox that the deciding factor for Harris was a concern that was first brought about by Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, a fellow Democrat, who reportedly his team told Politico that they were concerned with Shapiro's excessive political ambitions, and that those ambitions would essentially get in the way or upstage Harris. So that was the big deciding factor. Harris.
Oh, I guess that's code for would he stab her in the back if he thought he could get higher? I mean, that's not very complimentary from somebody in your own party. Brian Yenis, thank you. Pete Hegseth, now Fox & Friends weekend co-host, also from Minnesota, and we have that in common in terms of I lived there at some point. Gianno Caldwell, Fox News political analyst, and Brad Howard is here, president of Corcoran Street Group. Great to have you all. Pete, I have to go to you first because you and I both have some history and living through and me covering politics in the state of Minnesota. What are your top line thoughts now?
Well, I've been touching base with a lot of friends and folks back in Minnesota, and they are both thrilled and disgusted. Thrilled because this displays how left-wing the Democrat Party is, and disgusted that someone like him would be a standard bearer for a major party. I mean, this is a guy, he's very liberal. He's very thin-skinned, by the way. People will get to know that about him. He cut the press off because they were making critical statements. That will come to bear. He handled COVID terribly. He was a lockdown governor. He makes Cuomo, he's in the Cuomo crowd as far as nursing home deaths. The chaos of the George Floyd riots are well known. What's less well known is the COVID fraud, feeding our future $250 million that he oversaw and allowed to happen. And we're going to hear a lot more about his military background, Harris. This is a guy who was a sergeant major, who was about to be a command sergeant major, had been training his whole life with his unit, and then a deployment to Iraq came. And Walz said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm out. I'm getting out. I'm running for Congress. His whole unit went to Iraq. He stayed behind, and a lot of his other members have called him out for that. He's also radical on sex changes for minors. He blew an $18 billion surplus. I could go on and on. He's a failed governor in a radical left-wing state that's out of control. Police units don't want him showing up to funerals. They understand he's a defund the police kind of guy, just like Kamala Harris is. This is a radical ticket. Americans are going to be exposed to it. Minnesotans have lived with it. And I think Walz, they'll have their day today, but people are going to know more about him.
You know, I want to inject this into the conversation. I think it's interesting, and it comes from an article entitled "The Truth About Governor Walz and the National Guard." Remember back in the summer of 2020, after George Floyd was killed, all that we saw, the rioting, the burning things to the ground. Well, the issue has bubbled to the surface again, talking about whether this governor exposed people unnecessarily, his own citizens, by not quickly sending in the National Guard. Rioters went free 4 nights in a row in May of that year. Donald Trump, former president, has said this recently. Every voter in Minnesota needs to know that when the violent mobs of anarchists and looters and Marxists came to burn down Minneapolis 4 years ago, remember me? I couldn't get your governor to act. He was supposed to call in the National Guard or the Army, and he didn't do it. I couldn't get your governor. So I sent in the National Guard to save Minneapolis. Brad, you know, a lot of people may point to the anti-Semitism that seems to have found at least some kind of a home in your party for the uncommitted and unconstructed votes in certain states in this country, and maybe you'll court them as a party and maybe you won't. But this has nothing to do with that. This has to do with public safety, and there's some criticism for Tim Walz. It's pretty serious. You say what?
Well, I'll say, first of all, that that was a very painful time for the black community in America. And for
It was a painful time for all of America.
I know. But what I'm saying is that since then, you got to look at what Minnesota's done. They've tried to heal. They moved on. Minnesota's now ranked 4th by U.S. News and World Report as one of the best states in the country to live in. And if we're going to call him a liberal, let's talk about what he did as a liberal. He had lunch for kids in public schools, free breakfasts, he expanded access to Medicaid, and he expanded access to medical and family paid leave. This is the most pro-family governor in the country. Now he's going to be one of the most pro-family tickets in America.
Well, it is clear that the race card is in full service. And I want to push against it in some parts when we know it doesn't have to be played for a political gain. Because it's being played enough. Gianno.
Well, I got to tell you, this pick is a massive virtue signal to all of the fractured constituencies within the Democratic Party. When we look at the numbers in Minnesota, we had over 18% of the Democratic population in the primary, most recent primary, vote uncommitted. This governor has said, look, we need to focus on getting back those anti-Israel voters. And this is something that Kamala Harris absolutely wants to do. This is somebody who's been endorsed by the Progressive Caucus chairwoman in Congress, who said that this was her #1 pick before he was actually announced. Bernie Sanders and many others. This is a sanctuary city governor who wants there to be a sanctuary city there. And as the Trump campaign noted earlier, since he took office, violent crime up over 20%. This is not somebody that you would think they would want to use to unite America. No, absolutely not. This is someone that they want to lean in more on the progressive left. Certainly when Joe Biden ran and won, people thought that he was going to be a moderate, but progressives said clearly that they were going to push him far to the left. And we see right now an administration with Kamala Harris being the vice president and now her vice presidential pick. This is going to be a far leftist ticket.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.